Now before we move on, I want to look at this technique, a few of the movements at the beginning of this technique a little bit more, and try to establish a connection that you may have already noticed. There's a connection that exists between this technique and another technique. It's actually a technique we were looking at not too long ago. So what's our technique? He throws his kick, and I'm moving up the circle. So again, he throws, I'm running away from that, and then I'm going to circle. So we'll slow that down. So I'm running away from the kick, and then I'm going to circle in as I push drag in and catch him with a hammer to the groin. And that's just the piece that I want to look at right now, because that's very representative of another technique. Another technique, in this case, it's actually a punch defense. He punches, and I block. And then I circle into a back fist. So you're starting to make the connections now between this technique and reversing mace. This is really nothing more than a reworked version of reversing mace. See, we have our inward block, but we're adding a low block just in case as insurance. We're using a universal block. And again, we're running away from this kick because I don't want to block this kick. This isn't a block, this is insurance. I'm running away from the kick by moving up the circle. There's our beginning of reversing mace with an extra block in place. But now if he's got long reach, I can't reach him with this hammer strike. So I'm going to use a push drag. And I am, of course, altering targets from my back fist to my hammer. I'm going to use a push drag, which will close the gap and lend a little more power to that hammer strike as well. So why am I stressing this? And once you see it, this is pretty obvious, but why am I stressing this? It is critical that you guys go to work on making the connections that exist between your techniques. Because all too often, students look at a self-defense technique as a unique solution to a specific problem. And that's not what they are. Your techniques are designed to introduce you to and expand your understanding of the vocabulary of motion. And so when you start to make the connections that exist between those techniques, when you start to see that many of your techniques are nothing more than reworked versions of a few key techniques that you learn early on in your training, when you do that, now the patterns of motion that you're learning within the techniques become much more powerful for you.